In the beginning, Grandma created homemade sauce. Ka, the raven god, formed the world, and two wizard brothers, Hun Apu and Vukub Hun, were sentenced to death. Allah used light to create Muhammad. Men and women erected a guardian gate at the start of each village. First, tomatoes were picked off the vine early Sunday mornings. As the creator, Edward Scissorhands, attempted to create life, he falls short of time. Oil was poured from a jug made of invisible stone onto the hot iron pan. As the olive oil sizzles, Grandma chops up her fresh garlic and finely diced an onion. The great blade set and chose the onion. Edward struggled with everyday things such as eating and accidentally cutting things. And the two brothers were cut into pieces, and Hun Apu's head was placed beside a tree. With the temperature rising, she starts to saute, dropping in the garlic and onion over steamed olive oil, tossing and turning until a glaze of brown coated the edges, until line met line. Allah told Hawa not to eat the fruit of one plant in heaven, as the wheat and all other foods would be abundant in heaven, and idyllic concepts were gone, and legends were a thought restored in a myth. Nobody seemed to see the proof that was in front of them and simply feared the unknown. The people had nails, and the race faced sorrow, sickness, and death, and the skull spoke yet again, explaining that it was a sign. All men are only honored for their flesh. When they die, humans are terrified of the skull, but if they are children of someone who is wise, the skull is said, if the elderly bush gives birth, the first person whom is delivered from this creature would have nails on fingers and toes, and sooner or later would die due to sickness or other means of death. The hand yet again changed its tool, which had the color of a leaf. Its creator was satisfied. Not everything is going to go as planned. Things will look different, and no matter how much we plan, things can go differently, until line met line. Nad, legend of Youthland, was alive to hear the quiet beat of the drum. He performed different services for which people praised him for. Changing of the tools continued until all the colors had been used. Gaia would go and visit her child weekly to see how she grew, and it became sense of the catfish's big head, but the roar was the reason the fish had gills, until line met line. Again changed its tool and hoisted into the burning embers of the metal basin, and from village to village different names varied, and Habel murdered his brother, and women did not hunt, but when a man killed a tiger he was received by a woman, a majestic beast which would enhance the flavor of others, until line met line. The skull has gone on to say that the being has passed to Kuchumakwik. He is believed to be alive, although no one has seen him since, and myths and stories were understood as a religion of the world that developed a set of beliefs. Then suddenly the sap of the tree turned red and turned to calabash, which dripped of thick oil that shared the color of a peach. The sap now hardened and was moved upon the calabash, which had the color of a leaf, creating a square. And their homes changed from what they once were, and their stories changed to bloodshed and killings. This is a form of creation of life, for which is an attempt at superiority. Sizzling in the most enjoyable of ways, covering great swatch of space, between the lines the liquid changed the blank to its own hue. Through this process, this is how the image was created, and the meaning of their stories remained open to any interpretation. Until line met line. Or until a metal bowl was dropped from on high, shining like the sea. He is the father of these beings created, and therefore the people created will worship him as their gift, the giver of life. Through this process, this is how an image and portrays his thoughts into artwork. He allows that to soften for about 15 minutes and calls us in for a sample taste, and the sun is a dying star. This is a form of creation of life for which is an attempt at superiority. Whether it be sad or depressing that really made us stop and think, or another piece of artwork that got our creative juices flowing to inspire us to create artwork, however, still remains in their unfortunate deaths, which ironically opposes the entire idea of creating a superior being, until line met line. The hand yet again changed its tool, and the sun is a dying star. While Grandma roughed around in the bottom of her famous gravy pot, and she could not eat the fruit of one plant in heaven, whether it be in the dark room developing, it's different every time, when the hand that guided the pencil cast off into the void of table, until line met line. If the stone gave birth, first the people would all be covered in scales, and however would not die, opposing the elderly bush's offspring as a mother. And her father realized what his child had become. Please hurry, time is running out. Love Gaia. For 900 eons. or about 15 minutes.